Well, welcome back. It's actually still Saturday the 15th, but it's nearly Sunday the 16th, so we'll probably be watching this on Sunday. Now, a few weeks ago on this channel, we talked about in fact, it's about 5-6 weeks ago now, we predicted that things are likely to become endemic, and there wasn't too many people saying that at the time, but I want to just show you many other people that have now come on board with this thinking. But before we do that, I just want to flag up some interesting graphics. Now, these are from Our World in Data. How do key COVID-19 metrics compare to the early peak, the early 2021 peak, the previous peak? Now, these are quite clever because they've taken 100% as being the peak here. So that means that anything above this is higher than the peak in December, January. Let's say January 2021, and anything below that is less. So it's actually quite clever. And not only that, each metric is shown as a percentage of its peak value in 2021 and is shifted to account for the observed delay between case confirmation, hospitalization, ventilation and death. So they've actually taken these parameters and shifted them an appropriate amount. Now, they don't say on Our World in Data how much they've shifted them, but we can assume it's we can assume it's about 10 days from infection to any complications, and about 2 weeks to ventilation, and about 3 weeks or more to death. It will be something around there. So what this actually means is we can actually kind of read these that's the link to them there. It means we can actually read them in kind of I don't want that one. I want that one. It means we can actually kind of read these almost in live time when we can compare all the parameters, because we've actually shifted for the delay. So it's quite clever, really. And this is showing really that the Omicron is so much less virulent. And so anyway, they were the cases there in the peak. This is for the UK. So we see that all things went up to their, well, obviously they all went up to 100%, so you would expect them all to be the same. But now we look at confirmed cases. So first of all, we see that the UK has peaked, but what a high level it peaked at, way higher than previous. And the percentage there is, what is it? 3 times, 300%. But then when we go down and look at the other parameters, the patients in hospital, yes, it's up a bit, but it's only at 50% of what it was at the previous peak. Confirmed deaths round about the 20%, and patients ventilated. Again, we haven't seen a rise in patients ventilated. So all of those way less than previous peaks. Now that's for the United Kingdom. This one's Germany. Now Germany was recovering. Germany was recovering from a Delta wave, so some of this in Germany would be Delta, but now it's definitely Omicron. So we can see that the cases now are way higher than they were at the German peak. This is compared to the German peak, which was it was a bit earlier. German peak there was no, it's around about the same, isn't it? It's around about the same time, actually. So as we see now, cases going way high with Omicron, and these are going to continue to increase in Germany. They're still in their very exponential increasing phase. But patients in ITU, as Omicron has gone up. So as Omicron has gone up, and remember this is adjusted for the time delay. So as Omicron has gone up, patients in ICU have gone down, hospital admissions have gone down, and confirmed deaths have gone down. And now they are way lower than they were before. So that illustrates there very clearly in Germany. So what we see there is, and again, as we predicted, Omicron is displacing Delta and is associated with less hospitalizations, less deaths and less patients being ventilated. It's almost as if Omicron is protecting us against the ravages of Delta. Well, it's not almost almost like that. It actually is that. It's really quite incredible. And we know that Omicron gives immunity against Delta as well. So it's yeah. So whatever you make of that, that's the data. If you don't want to accept my interpretation there, you have to accept the data, I'm afraid, because that's Well, unless it's straight from the Robert Koch Institute. Now, the endemic COVID very soon thing that we've been talking about for 5-6 weeks now on this channel, we're roughly on the time scale we suspected we were on. Very soon, basically we've peaked already in the UK. United States will be peaking in the next couple of weeks. Doesn't mean say hospitals aren't going to be a problem well into February. They are in the United States especially, for reasons we've already looked at. So Omicron is going to become endemic, at least for the next few seasons. Now, endemic means it's consistent and predictable, not what you might... So you want it to be consistent and predictable as opposed to the boom and bust we've had lately. So we're not quite there yet because it's not totally predictable. Although we have predicted it reasonably well, actually, for some time now. But these are what the official doctors are saying, the professors and things. Common cold, influenza, HIV, measles, malaria, tuberculosis, all endemic. Smallpox was, of course, but that's been eradicated. So we have lots of other endemic diseases, and they can cause significant problems. I mean, measles. Last time I checked, measles was the 7th most common cause of death in children in the world, in poorly vaccinated areas especially. So endemic does not mean not severe, by no means. It just means it's there all the time and pops up from time to time. Tuberculosis, big problem, lots of tuberculosis in poorer areas of the country. So we're going to enter a new endemic COVID era. This is what I believe is going to happen. Now, is this just me or of other academics or professional people who do this all the time? Do they agree with this now? Well, they're coming round to it. Professor Julian Hiscox, Chair of Infectious Global Health, Liverpool, UK, new and emerging respiratory viruses. New and emerging respiratory virus threats advisory group. So in other words, this professor is a member of the UK government official advisory group on new viruses, which of course was set up in response to the pandemic rather than being proactively set up. So anyway, this professor's saying we're almost there now. It's the beginning of the end, at least in the UK. We agree. In fact, we're into the end game now, I believe. I think life in 2022 will be almost back to before the pandemic. I agree. Should a new variant or old variant come along, for most of us, like any other common cold, coronavirus, you'll get sniffles and a bit of a headache, and then we are okay because we have such high levels of immunity. If you're willing to tolerate zero COVID deaths from COVID, then we're facing a whole raft of restrictions, and it's not game over. And I don't want to misrepresent here what Professor Hiscox is saying, so I've put it as a direct quote. But what he's saying is, what he actually means here, that if the government wants zero COVID, then we're going to have big problems. We have to have massive restrictions if you want zero COVID. But if people aren't exposed to the ongoing Omicron, they're not going to develop immunity to it. So basically what he's saying is we have no choice. The governments cannot opt for zero COVID. In China at the moment, they're trying to. Let's be quite clear about it. The zero COVID policy in China will fail. It is not possible with Omicron to have a zero policy. Everyone in China is going to be exposed to Omicron in the next few months, unless the country is completely closed down, but then we'll get deaths from starvation and all sorts of other problems. It is inevitable. We have to accept the circulation of Omicron. It'd be nice not to have it, but we have to accept the circulation of the common cold. There's nothing we can do about it. We can't say wham, all colds have disappeared. It just can't happen. So I think that's what he's saying there. So it's not game over if we want to go for zero COVID, but we can't. In a bad flu season, 200 to 300 die a day over winter, and nobody wears a mask or socially distanced. And this is true. Why have we been tolerating this for so long? All we've been doing is kind of promoting vaccination programs. And that's perhaps a line to draw in the sand, 200 to 300 deaths a day. Is that what we're prepared to accept? Probably. But it's not quite as callous as that. Let's go and see what other scientists are thinking, see if their thinking's coming round. This is Dr. Goropelli, a virologist at St George's University, who is very optimistic. We'll soon be in a situation where the virus is circulating. We will take care of people at risk, but for anyone else, we accept we will catch it. They will catch it. I agree completely. And your average person will be fine. Yeah, this is quite inevitable. So interesting to see all these people are now coming round to what we've been saying for 5 or 6 weeks. We need to accept the fact that our flu season is also going to be a coronavirus season. I agree, at least for the next few years, and is going to be a challenge for us. However, it is still uncertain how bad winters will be. The people who die from flu and COVID tend to be the same, and I've put a note there, you can't die twice. So the people that are vulnerable, that are more likely to die from COVID, are perhaps the people that have been dying from flu, influenza and its complications in previous years. It's the same basic people that are at risk. And as COVID becomes endemic and Omicron becomes endemic, then perhaps the risks are going to be comparable. So I'm not expecting a doubling of death rates. I'm not expecting the deaths from influenza to be added to the deaths from COVID, because it's the same group of people that are vulnerable, and any one individual can only die once. Therefore, they can't appear in the figures twice. Professor Gani, I should have practiced all these names, shouldn't I? Anyway, epidemiologist, Imperial College London. COVID will still be around, but we're no longer going to need to restrict our lives. I think we can get back to normal soon. It seems like it's taken a long time, but only a year ago we started vaccination and we're already an awful lot freer because of that. That's true. That's true. It just seems like a long time, but it's only a year, just over a year since we started vaccination. And a new variant that can outcompete Omicron and be more pathogenic is possible, but it is not likely, because to have a variant which was even more pathogenic than Omicron, even more, so forget that last sentence, to have a variant which is more transmissible than Omicron is remarkably unlikely. And the probability that you would get something that was more transmissible than Omicron, that had immune escape from previous immunity and was more pathogenic, the probability of all of those 3 mutations happening in the same virus is so unlikely, and probably is not genetically possible. Probably not genetically possible. So I think the sheer transmissibility of the Omicron variant is going to protect us from future variants for a period of time. I am optimistic about that. Professor Eleanor Riley, immunologist, University of Edinburgh. When Omicron has finished and moved through, immunity in the UK will be high, at least for a time. There you go. I mean, so basically all the main brains are now agreeing, to be quite honest, with what we've been saying for some time about the optimism of Omicron. Now, just a couple of your experiences here. I'm not going to mention the name, but someone who describes himself as being 70 years old, overweight male, who used to smoke for a lot of years. Hi, John, I'm going through a period of suffering. Sorry to hear that. Got the infection last Tuesday. Tested on Wednesday and was positive. It is what you described, but the sore throat is terrible. You don't realise how often you swallow and how much it hurts until it's torture to do so. I've been taking my D3 and zinc, which is good. And quite a touching comment here. And if nothing else, my new granddaughter will get to know her granddad, which of course is the way it should be. What quite a lot of people are telling me, as you said in your experiences, quite a lot of people are saying they actually get better for a while and then get worse. So it seems to follow, you know, they'll wake up one morning and not feel too good. Then lunchtime they'll feel pretty good. Think, oh, I'm over this. But then by bedtime they can be feeling pretty rough again. So it does seem to follow this relapsing and remitting course, usually, but for a fairly short period of time. Now let's go on to Miss N Place. When I woke up and feeling like I had a hangover, I immediately took my temperature, and sure enough, it was 37.8. So woke up just feeling pretty rough, as if she'd had a bit of a heavy night. Knew I had it, just needed confirmation. Performed a lateral flow test and bang, had a positive result in under 5 minutes. No really outstanding symptoms, no sore throat, no real headache, just the tightness of the head, just like a hangover. Temperature fluctuated hour to hour. Taste buds altered, but no loss, just altered. Basically a general feeling of being unwell, but resolved. I haven't got the next piece of paper, but from what I remember, it resolved in about 3 days. So there you go. Good to get some of your experiences. What we are seeing with Omicron is a fairly variable, some of you having quite a rough time. Others are minimally symptomatic. I assume I've had it because I've been exposed, maybe just asymptomatically. All the time I've done a test, it's never come up on a test, so I've never tested when I've been positive. But quite a few of you are reporting these symptoms. The Zoe COVID symptom tracker symptoms do seem to be pretty accurate, but some of you are feeling pretty rough, ill. Some of you actually feel pretty awful for a few days, but most people do seem to be recovering quickly, and we know from official data that hospitalizations and intensive care and deaths are way lower, as we saw on those graphics, than previous waves. So really useful graphics, those. I think that's that actually really helps quite a bit. That it just puts it into context of how lucky we are that this is so less pathogenic, how fortuitous it is that it's giving back protection against Delta, and therefore, because people who have had Omicron are immune to Delta is essentially almost gone now. It's just a few percent, and it will be gone completely in the next week or two. And do remember, a lot of the problems what we're having with current hospitalizations and deaths are hangovers from the previous Delta wave that we experienced. So reasons to be optimistic, and good to see that lots of professors and doctors of immunology and virologists are now agreeing, which of course is encouraging. Okay, thank you for watching.